Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime. Alrighty, welcome back to Dark Poutine. Matthew is laying in his bed in a different room because there's hammering downstairs. Last week it was sirens, and this week it's hammering.
Actually, I'm laying in bed because of my back. The hammering is directly below me.
Oh, dear. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
What is going on with your back, Matthew? Have you been to a doctor?
I've been to a nurse practitioner and got an x-ray, and now I have to wait another 3 weeks to see another nurse practitioner because the other one quit to get an MRI. So,
Well, there you go.
yay.
That sounds like fun.
Yay.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're two ordinary Canadian schmucks chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
In this episode of Dark Poutine, we look at a tragic case of domestic violence that shook the small community of New Germany, Nova Scotia. On June 30th, 2010, the quiet parking lot of a local grocery store became the scene of a horrific crime that would forever change the lives of the Eisnor family. Wayne Paul Eisnor, driven by jealousy and an unwillingness to let go, confronted his estranged wife, Tina Mae Illingworth-Eisnor. In a shocking act of violence that unfolded in broad daylight, Wayne shot Tina twice in the head, ending her life, and then turned the gun on himself. Wayne, although he suffered brain damage, survived his wound. This episode explores the events leading up to this devastating moment, the aftermath of the shooting, and the complex legal proceedings that followed, including Wayne's amnesia, shedding light on a case that left a community in disbelief and a family deeply torn. This is Dark Poutine episode 334, Forget Me Not, the murder of Tina Illingworth-Eisnor. New Germany is a charming village in Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia, near Bridgewater, where I grew up. Located along the picturesque LaHave River and New Germany Lake, this small community of about 447 residents serves as a main service center connecting Bridgewater and Middleton via Highway Trunk 10. As a younger person, I spent considerable time in New Germany and am familiar with the locations mentioned in this episode. I drove through the village every weekend on my way back and forth between drafting school in Middleton and my family's residence in Bridgewater. It marked the point in my journey when I knew I was close to home. After graduating from community college, I had a girlfriend in New Germany who I visited often. If I could not get a car to drive, I would hitchhike back and forth along Highway 10. Yes, I'm that old. The story of New Germany began long before European settlers arrived. The area's original inhabitants were the Mi'kmaq, and European settlement began around 1803 when John Findle arrived, soon followed by other families like the Varners, Pennies, most likely relatives of my Nanny Hall, she was a Penny, and Woodworths. These early settlers were descendants of the foreign Protestants who had come to Lunenburg in the 18th century. They set up their first settlement along the north side of New Germany Lake. Life was challenging for these pioneers, but they learned valuable skills from their Mi'kmaq neighbors, including hunting, fishing, and tea making. The first recorded church service in the new settlement occurred in John Findle's barn in 1828, marking the beginnings of community life.
Yeah, that's a really sort of complexities of relationships between settlers and First Nations people or Indigenous people, right?
Yeah.
So the Mi'kmaq are sharing survival skills, but on the other hand, they're having so much being taken away from them.
Yep.
You know, there's so many complexities to that part of our history.
As the years went by, New Germany began to flourish economically. In 1811, John Findle built the area's first major industrial project, a small sawmill at Morgan's Falls. By 1898, Edward Zwicker Sr. had constructed a new sawmill and a fish box factory, later providing electric power to the community under the name Barse Corner Electric Light Company. The mid-20th century saw New Germany at its most vibrant. The town boasted numerous grocery stores, clothing shops, a hotel, and even the York Movie Theater. During World War II, the village showed its patriotic spirit by burning an effigy of Hitler on the Tower Hill. The construction of the Michelin tire factory in Bridgewater around 1971 brought new growth to New Germany, with many families moving to the area. Until 1981, the village was also accessible by the Halifax and Southwestern Railway, though the tracks are now abandoned and popular with ATV enthusiasts. I'm sure my buddies Ken, Brian, and Big Al can confirm this. New Germany's economy is diverse today, with employment centered around natural resources like farming, blueberries, maple syrup, forestry, and Christmas tree production. Many residents also still commute to work in Bridgewater, particularly at the Michelin tire plant.
So, first thing is, New Germany, that was a pretty ballsy name, Mike.
Right? Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like New Berlin or something like that. It's like, no, we're going to do new entire country in this small town.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. We've seen this a few times when, you know, smaller towns, more rural towns that are actually considered at the time sort of thriving and getting to be important. You know, one industry moves out or the rail doesn't go there anymore and they just completely fall off the map.
Yep.
And then eventually start coming back over time.
The COVID-19 pandemic unexpectedly boosted New Germany with increased interest in houses and land as people sought homes near lakes and rivers. The village has kept up with the times, connecting to fiber optic internet in 2020 and enjoying great coverage from Starlink satellite internet. Community spirit is alive and well in New Germany. The village hosts a regular farmers market on Friday afternoons from June to October and a community cafe on Thursday mornings. It's home to a community-built medical center, schools, shops, and restaurants. The volunteer fire department and RCMP outpost serve the area, demonstrating the close-knit nature of the community. New Germany continues to evolve while maintaining its small-town charm. In 2021, a new bridge was built across the LaHave River to connect the South Shore Annapolis Valley Trail to the former Caledonia Rail Line, expanding recreational opportunities for residents and visitors alike. From its Mi'kmaq roots to its present-day charm, New Germany, Nova Scotia has a rich history and a bright future. It's a place where natural beauty, community spirit, and modern amenities come together to create a truly special corner of Nova Scotia. If you haven't already gathered, I have a fondness for New Germany and its people. When I learned of the events of this case as it was taking place, I could only imagine how people in that tiny village had to have been shocked by what happened. I did not know Tina Illingworth-Eisnor. That's what she called herself on Facebook, although she's referred to as Tina Eisnor in media. I'll go with how she identified herself. We share a mutual friend on social media, and I asked him to share a bit about her. and he said he went to high school with her in New Germany in the late 1980s and recalled she was a, quote, very nice person then. Tina Mae Illingworth was born in Bridgewater on December 4th, 1967, to Rayburn and Janet Illington. They lived in the rural village of Simpson's Corner, close to New Germany. Tina had grown up with 3 siblings, sisters Trina, Julie, and brother Jody. According to court documents, the relationship between Tina and her husband, Wayne Paul Eisnor, had been strained for years and included several violent incidents, often occurring when Wayne had been drinking. Tina's children, Devin and Ashley, saw a lot through the years. One incident stood out sharply, considering what eventually occurred that took Tina's life. When Devin and Ashley were 9 and 10, they were traumatized when their father, Wayne, threatened to shoot Tina with his .22 caliber handgun. The couple had been having a few summer afternoon drinks after a day out haying. Tina and Wayne were verbally arguing when Wayne, losing control of the argument, became enraged. The children watched helplessly as Wayne grabbed his handgun from the cupboard, pointed it at Tina's head, and threatened to kill her. Devin later testified that, unable to watch, he ran outside and covered his ears, waiting for the sound of a gunshot that thankfully did not come.
Doesn't that hit?
Yeah.
Doesn't that hit hard? So
he's 9?
You know, of course, right? I like Tina, who got murdered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, feel for her. But Devin and Ashley, just watching your father threaten your mother at gunpoint.
Yeah.
It has to scar you for life and shapes how you see relationships and how you see safety as you grow up, right?
Yeah.
And these sorts of things last long into adulthood.
It was a knock at the door that diffused the first gun-related incident, and Wayne later apologized. Some of you might be thinking, well, that would be it for that relationship. While it may have been for some people, however, escaping an abusive relationship is often easier said than done. When we talk about domestic violence in Nova Scotia's rural communities, it's like peeling back layers of a complex onion. It's not just about the violence itself, but all these other factors that come into play. Everyone knows everyone else in a small village like New Germany. That's part of the charm, but it can also be a massive problem if you're trying to escape an abusive situation. You can't exactly slip away unnoticed when your neighbor down the road knows your every move. In these rural areas, resources are spread thin. It's different in Halifax, where you might have multiple shelters or counseling services to choose from. In rural areas, you might see one overworked social worker covering a massive area. Public transport? Forget about it. If you don't have a car, you're stuck, and maybe your abuser is your ride. Domestic violence is not the same everywhere. What works in the city might not work in the country. Provincial and federal governments must get creative. Listen to what rural communities need and provide more resources for people, primarily women and girls, trying to escape abusive situations. It's a tough nut to crack, but Nova Scotia's rural folks deserve safety and support just as much as everyone else. This is the world that Tina Illingworth-Eisnor and others like her have to navigate. There had been other instances of abuse in the more than a decade between the first incident with Wayne's handgun and Tina's murder. In 2009, during one particularly heated argument, Wayne had threatened to burn down the family home with Tina, Ashley, and Devin in it. Things came to a head in the late spring of 2010. In May of that year, an alarming incident occurred. Tina had been in Bridgewater that day running some errands. She picked up Chinese food for dinner from one of 3 places: Co's on King Street, Egg Roll King in the Plaza, or Magic Walk in the Bridgewater Mall. Although Co's has been around longer, I usually grab some Egg Roll King when I'm home visiting. Tina's son Devin later said that Wayne was, again, quote, in one of his moods, and Wayne exploded when he was presented with takeout food that had gone cold during the 25-minute drive from town. It was not just another verbal tirade. Wayne got physical. As Devin watched helpless, screaming in rage, Wayne threw the food on the floor of their Barse Corner home and grabbed Tina, pushing her head down toward the food on the floor, calling her a dog, and telling her she should eat like one. This was too much for Tina, so she left Wayne soon after and moved out of the house. Tina had already been seeking solace from Wayne's abuse in the arms of another married man, Peter Hurdle. After Peter's wife Lisa discovered the affair, she kicked Peter out of the house on May 12, 2010. After their affair was revealed, Tina and Peter felt free to see each other more openly. Wayne Eisnor was livid and found a sympathetic ear in Lisa Hurdle. Wayne Eisnor and Lisa Hurdle commiserated about their disloyal spouses, chatting on the phone almost daily for the next month.
You know, small communities like New Germany, where everyone's connected, these kind of relationships, like, you know, Tina's seeking comfort out somewhere else, right?
Right.
And in a small community like New Germany, like, it's hard to keep like, I grew up in one of these towns. It's hard to keep anything secret for too long, right?
For sure.
That sort of lack of any sort of anonymity at all can really start adding to fuel to a pretty volatile situation.
It definitely. And tongues be wagging. Definitely. Yeah. Of course, things were extremely tense between Tina and Wayne as Tina was extricating herself from the marriage. One day in June, Tina returned to the home she'd shared with Wayne to pick up some of her belongings. Tina used a ladder to climb into the attic and grab her things. While she was up there, she heard Wayne ranting in the room below. With no other option, she climbed down and found Wayne, red-faced, his pistol in his hand. Wayne threatened Tina, putting the barrel of the gun between her eyes. She believed he was going to shoot her right then, but there was a knock on the door. Wayne roughly grabbed Tina and shoved her into the bathroom, telling her to stay put while he answered the door. Tina heard Wayne's mother's voice and took that moment as her opportunity to flee. Tina later showed Peter Hurdle bruises on her body and told her sister Julie about what had happened. Tina told Julie and her friend Colette Vino that if Mrs. Eisnor had not shown up, she might not have made it out of the house alive. Over the next few weeks, Tina spoke with several people telling them she feared Wayne was going to kill her. One of those people was Earl Hurdle. Tina allegedly told Earl that Wayne had not only physically abused her, but at some point had sexually assaulted her as well, and he had said he was, quote, gonna kill her.
Mike, can you imagine living that level of fear every single day of your life? You know, what stands out for me is Tina's bravery. You know, even after enduring this, trying to move on, but it also underscores like how trapped victims often are or feel. Like every escaped attempt feels like it could be a last chance, you know, and the stakes are so high.
Yeah, well, I had a stalker when I was 21.
Oh, really?
Gentleman was not very nice and, you know, had already beat me up, and there was a court thing involved, and he was trying to intimidate me into not testifying, and,
wow,
you know. Yeah, so that was fun, and I was terrified. I was, like you say, looking over your shoulder all the time. It wasn't to the point where I thought I was going to be killed, you know, but maybe Tina didn't really think that all the time either, you know? Yeah. And I'll talk about how I relate to Wayne Eisnor at the end of this episode. In the weeks before her mother's murder, Ashley, now living away from her father, ran into Wayne, who was with another woman and his mother. According to court documents, quote, Wayne told Ashley that he needed her to come home and take care of things. He could not do it anymore. If she did not come home, something bad was going to happen. When Ashley told her mother of this encounter, Tina warned her not to go near Wayne, end quote. Wayne was saying some other ominous things too. Tina said he would not stop calling the house to harass and intimidate her. In one conversation, Wayne told his son Devin that he would, quote, not have no parents in a little while, end quote. After Devin told Tina about Wayne's comment, she called Wayne to ask what he meant, as friend Colette Vino, who was visiting with Tina, overheard Tina's side of the phone conversation. It's unknown what Wayne said in response. What is known is that on the afternoon of June 30th, 2010, in broad daylight, publicly and in front of witnesses, Wayne Paul Eisnor shot and killed his estranged wife, Tina Illingworth-Eisnor. More after a quick break. And we are back. Matthew, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I've really connected this sort of small town and Tina, and just thinking about how New Germany has this really rich sort of history and strong community vibe, which is great. But, the flip side is everyone knows everyone else's business, and that's a double-edged sword. And for someone like Tina trying to get out of a bad situation, it must be tough in so many ways, with the whole town being connected in some way.
Yeah.
And she must have felt like she probably easily felt sort of trapped, right? There's, this story that we're telling really kind of drives home that life in the small town isn't always simple and peaceful as it looks, first of all. And that very complicated things can happen. And in a small, tight-knit community, where you want people to have your back, that doesn't necessarily happen, right? And people struggle in small towns sometimes with this, right? There's not as big resources and everything else, right?
No, definitely
I don't know what
not.
I'm saying, but I get this feeling, like you're telling this story, and I get this feeling of the claustrophobic feeling she must have had of being trapped in all of this.
Yeah, I've seen lots of pictures of Tina and Wayne, and I don't know if I know him. I don't know if I knew him or ever was in a room with him, but she looks really familiar to me. So maybe we had a conversation at some point.
Were you passed her on the street many times?
Yeah. I mean, I hung out in New Germany for about a year, so I don't know, but she definitely looks familiar to me. So it's just a strange thing. Every time I see her picture in my notes, I'm like, I know that face.
You'll probably
I know that.
You'll probably figure it out.
Yeah, maybe. Leaving an abusive relationship is a perilous time for women, as evidenced by Canadian statistics and research. According to Stats Canada, women are significantly more at risk of violence when they attempt to leave their abuser. During this time, there is an increased likelihood of severe violence, as abusers often escalate their behavior in response to losing control over their victims. Women are 6 times more likely to be killed by an ex-partner than by a current partner, highlighting the lethal risk associated with separation. The Canadian Women's Foundation reports that approximately 65% of Canadians know a woman who has experienced some form of abuse, underscoring the prevalence of this issue. Indigenous women and girls face even more significant risks, being 12 times more likely to be murdered or go missing compared to other women in Canada. This elevated danger is compounded by systemic barriers such as financial dependency, fear of retaliation, and limited access to resources, which can make leaving an abusive relationship extremely challenging. Safety planning is crucial for women in these situations. The Public Health Agency of Canada and other organizations provide resources to help women develop personalized safety plans that address physical and emotional safety needs. These plans may include strategies for securing housing, accessing financial resources, and ensuring the safety of children. Additionally, support from community services and legal assistance can be vital in navigating the complexities of leaving an abusive partner. Despite the availability of resources, the demand for shelter services often exceeds capacity. On any given night, about 300 women and children are turned away from shelters due to lack of space, highlighting the urgent need for more support systems. The situation is particularly dire for women in rural areas, as we mentioned, where rates of intimate partner violence are significantly higher than in urban settings.
Yeah, it's at this time, that terrifyingly dangerous moment is when women are trying to leave, right?
Trying to leave, and this is exactly this situation.
Yeah, and this is when abusers feel their control slipping away, right? Mm-hmm. And when they really start lashing out in the most violent ways. Yep. Because these guys are sort of the control freaks, right?
Yeah.
And, as a society, it's, so many people, why didn't she just leave? That sort of stuff. Like, as a society, we have to recognize and better support women to safely escape these situations. You know?
It's not that easy. It isn't that easy. It's easier said than done.
We have to figure it out, though.
Yeah. Lisa Hurdle, Peter Hurdle's estranged wife, talked on the phone with Wayne Eisnor on the morning of June 30th, 2010, the day of Tina's murder. Wayne called Lisa at 8:26 a.m. She said he sounded normal and told her he was doing laundry, planning to hang it out to dry, and then heading to the garage. He said they would talk later that afternoon. That call did not occur. The garage that Wayne was referring to was Holland Carriers, a trucking company owned by his cousins David and Brenton Holland, where Wayne worked part-time driving the Michelin Run, which started at 3 a.m. on weekends. Brenton Holland saw Wayne at the company garage during their coffee break that day. After the coffee break, Wayne went into David Holland's office to confirm that Michelin runs were still on for the holiday weekend. David didn't notice anything odd about Wayne's behavior at the time. Wayne hung around after the break and they discussed the upcoming holiday weekend and its festivities. Brenton recalled Wayne saying he wasn't going to the Canada Day parade because he didn't want to, quote, see the two of them together, referring to Peter Hurdle and Tina. Brenton noticed Wayne seemed grumpy but thought he was upset with himself since he was smoking again after quitting. Witnesses saw Tina Illingworth-Eisnor shopping at Fresh Mart around noon. The grocery store is located at 4988 Highway 10 beside the Masonic Hall and across the street from a home where my former girlfriend and I visited friends of hers several times. There, Tina chatted with friends and mentioned that she planned to go home and turn off the phone because Wayne was bothering her. When Tina returned to her van in the parking lot, Wayne confronted her after she got into her vehicle. His vehicle was parked 2 spaces away from Tina's. People watched while the couple argued loudly for the next 5 minutes or so. Tina stayed in her van while Wayne waved his arms and hands wildly, clearly agitated. It was unclear what was being said between them. However, at one point, Tina was overheard saying, "I told you I would do that." Wayne's response was unheard, but at that point, he ran to his vehicle, grabbed something, and quickly advanced on Tina. Tina started backing out, and Wayne was seen raising his hand as Tina's van reversed out of the spot. Witnesses said there was the sound of a loud pop, then a woman's scream, and another loud pop. The van stopped. Almost right away, Wayne put the gun to his own head, shot himself, and collapsed in the parking lot.
You know what's shocking about all of this is it's in broad daylight, right in front of people.
A quiet summer afternoon.
Yeah, and it's almost like Wayne was doing this like public showing for control and dominance, right? Mm-hmm. Like almost like the public nature of it was part of it for him, right?
Yeah,
and,
maybe.
And shows how unpredictable and dangerous he is in these situations can be. And I just get the sense that he wanted to show that he was the one in control, even at the end here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like a real sort of like, I'm going to do this in public and show everyone that I was in control, even though I put the gun to my head.
Yeah, to heck with the trauma that you're causing your neighbors.
Yeah, and so many people don't understand that relationships are not about control.
No.
Right? And so many, more men than women, but women do it too. So many people don't understand that it's not about control and ownership.
Tina's van was still running and Tina was still breathing when shocked witnesses ran to help. Someone called for RCMP and ambulance assistance. Mortally wounded, Tina was bundled into an ambulance and taken to QE2 Health Science Center in Halifax. She was pronounced dead there sometime later that day. Wayne was still alive too. He was trying to move when RCMP officers cuffed him, finding his gun under his body. The weapon had a 9-cartridge capacity. 3 had been fired, leaving 6 more rounds in the gun. Wayne could not talk, but responded to officers and paramedics through hand squeezes. Wayne, too, was rushed to the hospital, but he ultimately survived his self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Yeah, the wrong person died.
In Wayne's car, police discovered 2 pairs of binoculars and several handwritten notes. They also found an empty Mickey bottle of rum, 375 milliliters, or a pint for anyone outside of Canada. From court documents, quote, toxicology reports on blood drawn from Wayne Eisnor showed, in the opinion of an RCMP expert, his blood alcohol level at the time of the shooting to be between 146 and 193 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. No witness described Wayne as exhibiting any signs of impairment, end quote. He was, however, well above Nova Scotia's legal limit of 80 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood to drive. At the family home, police found nothing out of the ordinary. There was a load of laundry drying on the clothesline. There were dishes in the dishpan, and the vacuum was out, indicating cleaning had just occurred or was intended. Further to the notes found in Wayne's car were more on the kitchen table and in Wayne's bedroom. From court documents, the papers on the kitchen table alerted the reader that there were more papers to read in the bedroom under the mattress. There were ominous inferences that one could draw from these writings. They spoke of her being out enjoying herself, referring to Tina, and he, Wayne, at home, was not going to happen. She's not going to lay with him, in love with him, and tell me that used her bad for 20 years. So he's denying he was abusive here.
Please translate from illiterate.
Yeah, it's hard. His writing isn't the clearest.
No.
Another notation went 25 years with her. I just can't give it up this way, so both of us going to pay. And I had a good life to now. I love my children. Tell them this, please. But my nerves got the best of me. End quote.
Yeah, this paints a picture of a man who's spiraling and whose thoughts are completely fixated on control, resentment, and this weird twisted sense of finality, right?
Yep.
And it's horrifying to know that this inner turmoil led straight to the death of Tina. And I'm sorry, but you don't get to say I love my children if you're abusing and murdering their mother.
No, that's not a loving act. Definitely not.
You just don't. Like, your sense of control trumps any love for anyone that you have, right?
Yeah. On July 2nd, 2010, Global News reported that Wayne Paul Eisnor, 47, still in the hospital in critical condition, had been charged with first-degree murder in the death of his wife, 42-year-old Tina Mae Illingworth-Eisnor. Wayne pleaded not guilty. He had a long recovery ahead of him, and Tina's family had a long wait to see justice. He was held at the East Coast Forensic Hospital where multiple cognitive assessments were conducted. Initially, in October 2010, due to severe injury to his brain, he was unable to participate effectively in his own defense. He was too impaired mentally and was deemed unfit to stand trial. Wayne was found to be functioning in the, quote, extremely low to borderline range of intelligence, end quote. According to court documents, quote, fitness focuses on the accused's ability to understand the process, the consequences of what is at stake, and to rationally communicate in order to participate, to the best of his natural abilities, in his defense. It has nothing to do with the accused's mental health at the time of the commission of the act or omission that has led to the charges, end quote. Doctors determined that Wayne suffered from amnesia, leaving him with no memory of the events on that day or the 6 months leading up to it. The physicians reported that his verbal abilities were significantly impaired, with poor verbal comprehension. By November, his condition had improved, and one doctor deemed him fit to stand trial. However, his lawyer argued that he could still not communicate with his counsel effectively due to his inability to recall details related to the allegation. Another expert noted that some of his abilities improved over time and that his amnesia did not render him unfit. By July of 2011, Wayne had recovered to the point where the Nova Scotia Review Board found that his cognitive abilities had improved enough to participate in a trial. According to CTV News, the board's decision read in part, quote, we find that he does meet the relatively low standard of limited cognitive capacity. We therefore find that he is now fit to stand trial and order his return to court, end quote. His defense team disagreed, and the matter was left to a judge who would determine whether the review board's findings were valid. In early April of 2012, Wayne was determined to be ready for trial in provincial court. Provincial Court Judge Gregory Lenihan ruled that Wayne Eisnor was fit to stand trial despite his retrograde amnesia resulting from his head injury. The judge noted that Wayne Eisnor had a limited attention span but responded appropriately to questions. Quote, "I find that the Crown has met its burden in this hearing," Lenihan stated, affirming Wayne's fitness for trial. This declaration prompted a loud reaction from Janet Illingworth, Tina's mother, who exclaimed, "Yes." The judge quickly admonished her, saying, "You're in a courtroom. This is not a hockey arena." End quote. Earlier in the proceedings, Judge Lenihan accepted expert testimony indicating that Wayne Eisnor could not recall the events surrounding his wife's death or the 6 months leading up to the incident. He expressed confidence that Wayne's memory loss was genuine and not feigned, stating, quote, "I'm satisfied that it is a real loss, a genuine loss of memory," end quote. Eisnor's lawyer, Roger Burrell, argued that this amnesia rendered Wayne Eisnor unable to communicate effectively, making him not much more than a bystander in any court hearing or trial, end quote. However, the judge rejected this argument, asserting that Wayne Eisnor's memory loss would not hinder his understanding of the trial or his ability to communicate with his lawyer. Lenihan remarked, quote, "I'm not aware of any other case in this province or in this country in which amnesia by itself was enough to find a person unfit to stand trial," end quote. He concluded that Wayne Eisnor had the capacity to follow the evidence presented in court, emphasizing that amnesia alone did not disqualify him from being fit for trial. Following the ruling, Tina's brother expressed relief at the decision. Wayne Eisnor was ordered to remain in custody at the Central Nova Correctional Facility until his next court appearance, scheduled for April 18th.
Yeah, this moment really captured, and we see this occasionally, Mike, that this moment captures the tension between legal standards and human emotion, right? Mm-hmm. So on one hand, the law focuses on whether Wayne can understand the trial and participate, and if he can't, remember the crime itself. Mm-hmm. But for Tina's family, it must be infuriating and upsetting to see him as a potential, being positioned as a bystander to his own trial. Yeah. Right? As if his actions and consequences can just be swept away by supposed amnesia, right?
Disturbed me too.
And it has to be a tough balance, ensuring fair legal proceedings while also acknowledging the impact on the victim's loved ones, who are desperately looking for accountability, right? And sometimes, sometimes legal standards, they don't match up with the emotion of victims' families, right?
No. Wayne Eisnor's legal team again appealed the decision to go to trial, and this time it was left to the Nova Scotia Supreme Court to decide his fitness. In August 2013, Judge Glenn McDougall said Wayne Eisnor may be unable to relate the details of the events involving his wife. However, that alone should not prevent him from going to trial, which was set to begin on September 4th and scheduled for more than 2 weeks. No one argued that Wayne had shot and killed Tina. That was irrefutable. However, whether he had planned to kill her that day was the big issue. According to court documents, the defense presented 3 expert witnesses, Doctors Eileen Brunette, Jeanette McGlone, and Stephen Porter. Their testimony, which the Crown did not contest, established that Wayne Eisnor had suffered a severe brain injury that initially left him unfit to stand trial. Over time, he regained cognitive function, but experienced dense amnesia for the events of June 30th, the day of the shooting, and the months preceding it. Wayne and Tina's daughter Ashley, then 24, also testified. Her testimony focused mainly on her relationship with Tina and Wayne and on the gun-pointing incident when she was just 10. Ashley testified that she left her family home in 2009, citing difficulties getting along with Wayne. The defense, however, suggested that her issues were with her mother, pointing out that she had previously told police their relationship was strained. Ashley countered this by describing her relationship with her mother as typical for a mother and daughter with minor disagreements. Ashley said pointedly about her father, quote, "I hate him for what he's done," end quote. Wayne Eisnor himself testified, describing his early life, educational struggles, employment history, and family relationships. While he identified the .22 caliber handgun used in the shooting as his own, he claimed he had no memory of the events on June 30th. He repeatedly denied shooting his wife despite his lack of memory. He also couldn't recall making writings found in his home, though he acknowledged the handwriting appeared to be his. The defense strategy as presented to the jury suggested that there was an interaction between Tina Eisnor and Wayne, possibly lasting up to 5 minutes before the shooting. They argued that, quote, "something happened between the participants, something ugly and nasty that we will never know," end quote. According to the defense, it was after this interaction that Wayne Eisnor retrieved his handgun from his van, then shot Tina. They emphasized that there was no plan to murder anyone. It was in the heat of the moment, they said. To support their argument against premeditation, the defense pointed out that Wayne Eisnor had confirmed plans to work the weekend just 2 hours before the shooting. He had also done laundry and hung it out to dry, which they argued were inconsistent actions with having planned a murder-suicide for that day. They also highlighted the role of alcohol in potentially impairing judgment and increasing impulsive behavior. It's everybody else's fault but Wayne's, and he was making plans, and he was deliberating killing her. I can't see that he wasn't.
Well, you know, defense lawyers will defend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, it is really unsettling, though, to see the defense try to piece together a narrative that paints this sort of act that he did as something spontaneous and driven by impaired judgment, because we know over and over and over and over again, there's this long history of abuse.
Yep.
That he inflicted on Tina.
Even a pattern of him waving that gun around.
Yeah.
And pointing it at her head.
All of it. All of what you've been telling us. So to say, oh, it was a spontaneous act. No, he was leading up to this for years. Right. And, you know, her, you know, what's really upsetting is her life was stolen in a moment of absolute terror for her. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the tragedy. And, you know, when the court's deliberating the specifics of Wayne's mental state and intent, like, what can't be lost here is Tina's long-term suffering, her fear, and this horror that that was the very end of her life. And, you know, those are injustices that can't be overlooked.
The Crown at Wayne's trial, on the other hand, argued that the evidence, including his writings, demonstrated his animus toward Tina for leaving him. They contended that he was fully aware of his actions and was determined to carry out a plan that he'd developed. The trial judge presented the jury with 4 possible verdicts: guilty of first-degree murder as charged, guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of manslaughter, or not guilty. The courtroom was packed when the jury returned their verdict. Before the decision was read, Justice Glenn McDougall, wanting to maintain decorum, warned, quote, "Try as best you can to maintain your composure. Try not to let your emotions get the better of you," end quote. Despite the admonition, a small short cheer erupted when the decision was heard. Guilty of first-degree murder. Wayne was then given the only sentence under Canadian law after being found guilty for first-degree murder: life without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Outside the courtroom, Tina's family celebrated the decision with hugs. Tina's sister Julie spoke to reporters. She said, quote, "It was a big weight lifted off the shoulders after hearing the sentence," end quote. She said that waiting as the jury deliberated was difficult. Quote, "It's been nerve-wracking, just waiting for that phone to ring for the time to actually have to come. It's hard to believe that we've actually come this far. It's been 3 years. Yes, 3 years. Finally. Justice." End quote. Julie said she was relieved she could finally get on with life. Quote, "I'm going to feel like getting up and doing my thing because we finally have peace for Tina. She can actually rest in peace." End quote. Julie talked about how her family missed Tina. She said, quote, She was always there for us. Didn't matter what we did or where we was going or whatever. She done everything with us. She was our sole provider of all of us, her brothers and sisters. She got all of us through everything. When we had a problem, we went to Tina. And then all of a sudden, you don't have Tina there no more to do anything with because she's gone just over something senseless." End quote. Julie then discussed an annual ball tournament the family was holding in Clark's Harbor to honor Tina's memory, to send a message to abused women to get help and leave abusive relationships before it's too late. A day after the verdict, Tina's adult children, Devin and Ashley, spoke out too. The siblings experienced a range of feelings from sadness to euphoria. Devin expressed relief, echoing his Aunt Julie's sentiments from a day prior. Quote, "I felt like a weight was completely lifted off my life," end quote. Ashley agreed with Devin, stating, quote, "I think he got what he deserved for shooting my mom, but there were very mixed emotions because it's like on June 30th, you lost both parents, really," end quote. Devin and Ashley were speaking out in hope of raising awareness around domestic violence, encouraging others to share their stories and seek help. Ashley admitted, quote, "I thought it was wrong to go somewhere for help, to really reach out and really make that big move and protect yourself," end quote. The siblings told CTV News that they hope their story will inspire other victims of domestic abuse to find their voice and seek assistance. Wayne Eisnor's defense team appealed again, citing their opinion that Wayne's diminished mental capacity should have played more a part in the proceedings against him. His appeal was denied.
Rightfully so, right? It's, how many chances are they going to give him to evade responsibility for this?
Right.
Right. And, it's Devin and Ashley, I hope that they can hold on to the good memories of their mom, and to, they will always carry the weight of what happened, right? All of their lives, right? They're the living victims of this, dealing with the aftermath. And my hope for them is, people can be resilient, right? People can be really resilient, but despite all this darkness they've had, I hope they can find beauty and love and have a good life in this world,
Yeah. This story is not just another episode and has a lot of deep meaning to me. When I was seeing that girl in New Germany, I was going through a challenging period in my life where anger and insecurity played a significant role in how I interacted with others. These feelings caused me to lash out both verbally and physically with people I cared for and who cared for me as a way to cope with what I was going through internally. However, instead of continuing down that destructive path, I was confronted by my girlfriend, her friend, and her friend's mom, and they begged me to seek help before things escalated any further. I knew they were right, and I did. I want to express my gratitude to them for having been guided toward a better path before reaching a point where I could have done something deeply regrettable like Wayne Eisnor did. So thank you, Adrian, Sue, and Sue's mom. I think of your compassionate intervention often. It plays a part in the motivations behind this entire podcast's existence. If you're struggling with anger, frustration, or insecurity and are taking it out on others, please know there is help available. Abusive behavior, whether it's verbal, emotional, or physical, hurts those around you and can have long-lasting consequences for both you and the people you care about. It's always possible to make a change. Reaching out for support is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are resources in Canada and everywhere else that can help you take the first step toward a healthier, more positive way of handling your emotions. Call 1-833-456-4566 for 24/7 support or text 45645, available 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. They can provide crisis intervention and connect you with local resources. Or you can call 988 or go to 988.ca to chat with someone right now. Reaching out can be the first step toward healing and building healthier relationships. Please don't wait until it's too late. Get the help you need today. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 334, Forget Me Not, the murder of Tina Illingworth-Eisnor.
That's right. It's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week.
Alrighty, here is our first voicemail.
Hi, my name is Elsa B. I live in Calgary, Alberta. Just wanted to call you guys and tell you guys to go shit in your hat. Love ya. Bye.
I like it when people are short and sweet like that. So
yeah, it's Elsa B. Calgary. You go shit in your hat as well. That is
exactly
that is said with love.
What did you think that she does there in Calgary, Matthew?
Elsa B?
Yeah.
She makes quilts.
Quilts, interesting.
Yeah.
So does she use like patterns that she finds at different places, or
she makes them herself?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
she's
really
a quilt
cool.
designer, and she's actually gonna bring them back into like high fashion.
Well, quilts are really nice. I had one for a while. It's with my ex-wife now, but my great grandmother made it. It was really, really cool. It was more than 100 years old.
Wow, I would love to see sort of a really contemporary design quilt.
Yeah, it would be
like really cool, like contemporary patterns, but with the actual craftspersonship in it. You know,
people are doing it.
Yeah.
Here's our another voicemail.
Hi, guys. Not going to say my name because I don't want it on air because I'm super paranoid. I sent an email recently with 2 case suggestions, one in Newfoundland and one with a Newfoundland, BC. Mr. Big, person who probably did the killing, has recently been released and with an appeal, and it sucks. So look at those cases in your email, and I hope you choose to look at them. And practical question, I know I can send PayPal to your email address. Can I e-transfer you? That is a wonderful option in Canada, which has no fees. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know if I can e-transfer you some cat food money. Okay, take care. Bye.
How dare she cat food and not Steve food money?
Steve food. Well, we don't even have a name, Matthew. That's just
she's no name, so she obviously works at No Frills.
Right. No frills, no name, you know.
Yeah. And she has like a yellow t-shirt that says, "This is a t-shirt."
Yes. I did get her email, and I am looking at it right now. So, yes, we did get your email, and it is in our to-do list. I essentially have this really long list of shows that are good. She took a lot of time to write out some information. So,
and if this is if it's a Mr. Big connector case, I know you like doing those because I get riled up, and it's an energetic show when we do those.
You really do. You really get upset, Matthew. But oh well. Yeah. So, and yes, you can e-transfer us, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com if you want to do the Interact email transfer. That goes through, definitely. I get an email saying, so-and-so sent you money.
Boom.
So, boom. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should we give her a job?
I did.
What did you? Oh, never mind.
No frills.
Right. Okay. Moving on. We've ケone more voicemail this week. Okay, so we did have somebody tried to call us from Kenora, Ontario.
Sarah from Kenora, Ontario.
Yeah.
Call us back and tell us a story.
Yeah, tell us the story. Maybe she freaked herself out or something. It happens. Yeah, it happens.
But call us back. It was a funny message because we heard
it was definitely a funny message.
Talking to somebody else in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won't play it though, so call us back.
Yes, exactly, because we don't want people to be embarrassed.
No.
We're embarrassed enough doing this show. Let's try another voicemail, Matthew.
Okay,
Looks
Michael.
like there's another.
Hey, Mike, Matthew, and Steve. I have a case request and then a quick story for you. Because I am a relative of the victim of the case request, I'd prefer to not say my name, but you can still guess my job if you want. If you could please consider telling Amanda Raymond of Kitchener's story, it would be appreciated. I know you're not overly fond of stories involving minors, but I really feel her story needs to be told. Last I heard, the monster that had a hand in her end is at a prison currently, I think. I've been trying to find news about it, but haven't seen anything since he was set for like his third or fourth release or whatever in November of 2023 or some bullshit like that. Frickin' numpty. Anyway, so my quick story. I'm fairly new to the world of podcasts. I only started indulging in them about 2 years ago and am a big crime buff, so I was binging things like Dateline and 2020 podcasts like that. And I've been thinking of taking my career life in a different direction recently, and I thought, oh, podcasting about crime, Canadian crime. And I do a major crime from each province every week, but a totally unique idea. Nobody's done that before, right? Well, my face was quite red from embarrassment and envy when I found Dark Poutine. Remember, if you have a brilliant idea, make sure someone hasn't already come up with it first. But I can't get enough. I've listened to every episode over the past 2 months. I'm scarfing it down like I'm starving. Side question, do you have any advice for people looking to start podcasting? Thanks for all you guys do. Go shit in your hats, lads.
Wow. That was a lot. Yeah, I mean, there was already Canadian true crime podcasts when I started, and one was called Canadian True Crime. So I couldn't name my podcast that, so that's why I had to be creative.
Sometimes stuff like that just makes you forces you to be more creative.
And it's true.
It's about doing it your own way as well.
Exactly. And that's what I focused on, was when I had my idea to do my thing, I was made aware quickly, like you said, that other people were doing similar things. And, you know, there's more than just us. There's a lot of us out there telling Canadian stories. But, yeah, what will you do differently for that? What kind of spin would you put on it? Or maybe there's something else that you really want to do that's not that. Who knows? But as far as like starting a podcast goes, just start writing. Like, just start writing an episode. Write an episode, like write the guts of it first, and then put your bones in afterward. That's what I did. But yeah, so that's fun. And so we don't know her name. She doesn't work at Payless.
I was looking up the case she was referring to.
Yeah, I did too.
It's very sad.
It is very sad.
And infuriating.
Yep, of course it is, because why is this guy out of jail? Like, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I think she's from Kitchener Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she works at Jimmy's Diner. Jimmy's Lunch, it's called Jimmy's Lunch.
Jimmy's Lunch.
I think we talked about this once before on the show. Total dive bar diner. That is so cool because it's so completely like original and dive bar. I mean, it was 30 years ago when I was there, but I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah, I need to see more of Ontario. I'm starting to think that I haven't seen enough of that province. I've been in Toronto. I've been in Ottawa. I've driven through, but I really, I've spent some time in Hamilton. But Ontario's so big. So big.
And, well, it's also like takes so long to get anywhere because there's so much traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. Yeah, when you're driving across the country and you start in Ontario just after Winnipeg.
That's the most amount of time is in Ontario. Yeah,
you spend days driving through Ontario.
Yeah. No, Ontario is it's so many of our provinces are as large as countries in Europe that I've spent a lot of time in. and kind of more, there are also a little bit more, what's the word? Samey, we're one nation. Like there are different aspects to it, but we're Ontario and Manitoba are much more the same than France and Germany, for example, right? But you realize that there's so much to see and do, right? There's so many historical spots and nature beauty spots and fun things. But yeah, Ontario is huge.
It is really, really big. That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome. All right, we're back for Patreon and Donut Money donors, and I just am blown away by how many people have become patrons over the past week and a bit. What the heck? Holy smokes. Well, let's start with Deb Plummer. How's that sound, Matthew? Deb Plummer. She stepped up in a big way. Thank you, Deb. Thank you so much. I don't know where Deb is from or what she does for a living, Matthew, so maybe you can help with that.
Deb is from Stratford, Ontario. She's related to Christopher Plummer.
Okay.
And she works for the Stratford Festival as artistic director.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I like the Stratford Festival.
I want to go. Next, we have Kat Eldridge. Kat Eldridge. And Kat, I don't know where Kat's from or what she does for a living, Matthew.
Where is Kat from?
Mm-hmm.
She is from, what's that little Manitoulin Island? That's what it's called in Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she runs a cat rescue. That's why her first name is Kat.
Oh, there you go. Even though it's spelled differently, it's with a K, but clearly.
Yeah, she had some German heritage as well, so that's the K.
Very nice. Next, we have Jessica Teggart. Jessica Teggart. And where is Jessica from and what does she do, Matthew?
Jessica is from New York City, and she runs a PR agency.
A PR agency?
Yeah, PR agency, but she does PR for companies that sell like arms dealers. So she
arms dealers?
Yeah, she does PR for arms dealers.
Okay. Interesting.
Thanks for your hard work, Jessica.
Yes, thank you so much. Next, we have Jesma Secord. And I don't know where Jesma is from, but I presume you're going to have something clever to say.
I'm glad that is a presumption of yours.
Okay.
Michael.
Yes.
Michael, because she is from Quebec, and she is of the Laura Secord family.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who Laura Secord is?
Yes, right? I do. Made some of my favorite pudding.
Gosh, it's so funny how Laura Secord is known as
She's
the pudding now.
The pudding lady.
She's like the pudding people person.
Yep.
Yeah. So she actually runs the historic Laura Secord homestead in Queenston near Niagara Falls.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So for those who don't know, Matthew, what did Laura Secord actually do?
Laura Secord.
It's also a show we should do, but...
Is it really?
Sure, why not?
She's Canada's most famous heroine.
She did heroin?
Because of her bravery, the British forces... I was trying to how do I summarize this? I actually was maybe I can just read some things. She was essentially the Canadian Paul Revere.
Yeah, she was the
right?
Canadian Paul
That's
Revere.
the easiest way of putting it, actually.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Paulina Revere.
Yeah, Laura Secord. So yeah, she was involved in the War of 1812, and yeah, it's very interesting stuff. There's a lot about her. Holy smokes, we should probably.
And so instead of the
her.
British are coming, it was the Americans are coming.
Yeah. Yeah, they were probably mad because we went and burned their White House, but whatever.
Well, it was red till we burnt it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Oh dear. So that is it for. We'll leave it there for patrons this week. There are more, and yes, we will get. We will get to you.
And Jesma Secord, I'm so sorry. You probably get that all the time.
Of course.
Hey, Laura Secord. But
she might be related, though.
She might be, but we're getting a lot of names today, so I needed. That was at a push.
Oh, well, you did a good job. But
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we need to keep plugging forward, I think. But yes, we will get to our other 6 other patrons next week. But first, let's do some donut money donors. There's a bunch of those too.
Okay.
We have Blended Border Media LLC. From your friends here at the Guatemala Trading Company, husband and wife, Waki and Alex, share high-quality products celebrating Guatemalan culture, including organic dark chocolate grown by us in Guatemala and processed and packaged by us here in the USA. We love the show and want to support with love from Guatemala and Minnesota. If either of you would like to try our chocolate, just shoot us a reply.
Yes. I was sitting here drooling.
And I'll try to get you a gift card with enough on it to cover shipping to Canada. GuatemalaTradingCompany.com.
Yummy.
So I'll message you that, Matthew, and you can do that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Neat. Well, thank you very much. And Guatemalan chocolate sounds fantastic. It really does.
Yeah, it's maybe it's like early Mayan chocolate. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Next we have Leamber Raven Kensley.
Leamber.
Yes. And
Yumber Yardress.
Yes, a Yumber Yarder. And what does Leamber Raven Kensley do, and where does she live, Matthew?
Okay, she lives in what's the name of that town? Smoke City.
Smoke City.
Yeah, and she is a cannabis tester.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good job for me. It was one that I probably would have enjoyed very much.
No,
but that whole don't get high on your own supply thing.
It would not be a good job for you.
No, it definitely
we need people that are copus mentis some of the time in order to write the reports.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I would be copus mentis none of the time.
Leamber, we love you. She's one of our peeps.
Thank you, Leamber.
Thank you, Leamber.
And next up, we have Don Casey from South Lake, Texas. He says, I heard the plea for help. Canadian now living in Texas, recently retired, need hobby.
Need a hobby.
So Matthew, Don Casey, who lives in South Lake, Texas, needs a hobby.
Well, if Don is living on a lake, maybe he should take up fishing.
Fishing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fishing. Maybe he should be a fishing guide.
Yeah, well, living in somewhere called South Lake, no idea where it is, or if there's a lake, I'm assuming there's a lake, and being retired in Texas, it sounds like it's sort of, you're heading towards some fishing, my friend.
There you go.
Or, in terms of, I actually like to take courses. So, okay, here's an idea, Don. My husband and I were talking, and we said, when we both retire, he wants to take a botany course at University of British Columbia,
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted, and because he's actually a pretty good gardener now, and I wanted to, and I'm a pretty good cook, and I want to take different types of cooking courses like French or Thai or whatever. And that way, when we're retired, like we'll have something to do with that, like a hobby courses, but also we'll have a really nice garden and really good food.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so maybe it's cooking or fishing or cooking the fish that you catch.
Cooking the fish. That's kind of fun. And we've got 3 more Donut Money donors, but we'll do 1 more and then leave 2 for our next show. Next we have S. Lee LaSala, and S. Lee LaSala is from Simsbury, Connecticut. I don't know if what gender S. Lee is, so we'll call them they. But yes, Simsbury, Connecticut is where this person is from, Matthew.
Simsbury, Connecticut.
Simsbury, Connecticut.
I was going to say that Slee LaSala was the producer of the game The Sims.
Okay.
But a friend of mine is actually the producer of The Sims. So that's not the job. So I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm getting opera here. La Sala is like La Scala. I think professionally trained opera singer.
There you go.
Yeah. La Sala's a great last name.
Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors, past and present, for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my book, Murder, Madness, and Mayhem, is available to order via a link on the Dark Poutine website. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, please check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you took the time to give Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening, and tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing.
Thank you to everybody who stepped up. I'm speechless this week. I don't know what to... Thank you. And that's it for this episode of Dark Poutine. So until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple.
We know you are, and good egg.
Good eggs. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.